Hello, my name is Maggie Mills. I am a researcher with the Mapping Prejudice project, and I am going to walk you through the process of transcribing racial covenants. Before we begin, navigate to mappingprejudice.org and find the Get Involved tab in the upper right-hand corner of the nav bar. Then select Build the Map from the drop-down menu. Getting started with your first deed is a three-step process. First, you will want to watch our training video, so you're ahead of the curve. Remember, you can return to this quick video at any time for a refresher by navigating to mappingprejudice.org. Second, you'll go to the zooniverse.com page to create an account. On the Zooniverse page, you will select Register and complete the registration form with your information. Once you complete the registration step, you will return to the mappingprejudice.org Build the Map page. From here, you will complete the final step by navigating to the Mapping Prejudice project page on Zooniverse through this direct link. On our Zooniverse project page, first make sure that you are signed in by checking in the upper right-hand corner. Then you will scroll down to find our workflows. At the time of this recording, we have two active workflows. Select the workflow for the area that you would like to help us map. We also have a training module, which we recommend you practice a few transcriptions in before moving on to the data collection workflows. The process in both workflows is exactly the same, but the training module does not feed into an actual data set, so the stakes are low while you are getting the hang of things. I will show you a transcription in the training module. When you click the workflow link, a window will open with a deed document on the left and a response box on the right. If this is your first time transcribing, a written tutorial will pop up that gives a brief overview of our project, background on covenants, and the process of transcribing deeds. I recommend that you spend some time reading that brief walkthrough, and you can always find more detailed information about the history of covenants at our website. Once you have clicked through the pop-up tutorial, the first question you will answer is, does this deed have a racial covenant? To help you with this task, the deed page that likely contains racially restrictive language will appear with a black border around it on the left-hand side. However, these deeds are often multiple pages. To toggle through the multiple pages, use these circles at the bottom of the page. You should not need to change pages to find the racial covenant language, but you may need to do so to find other information. All right. I will return to the black bordered page and scan this document for racially restrictive language. And yes, here it is right here. So I will mark yes. If I got a deed that was confusing or hard to read, I would mark I can't figure this out. You can always hit the I need some help with this button, and examples will appear to help you with the task you are on. Also, you will sometimes encounter deeds that do not have any racial restrictions. And for these, you'll press No, and it will take you to a new deed. But for this document, I am certain that there is a racial restriction, and so I select Yes, and we'll hit Next to continue. The next question will ask you what the covenant says. Please type the racially restrictive language exactly as it appears. This document says, grantee cannot sell or lease said real estate to a colored person. So I will type that right here. Once I've typed that in, I reread my transcription for accuracy, and then I press Next to continue. The next set of questions are designed to collect the geographic data that we need to map this covenant properly. The question asks, what is the lot number? In a deed, you will find what is called a legal property description. A legal property description contains three parts: a lot number, block number, and addition name. Scan the document looking for a section that gives this information. For this document, I have to navigate to previous pages to find the legal property description. So the legal property description for this document says lots 42, 43, 6, and 7. You will encounter documents that cover multiple lots. And for documents like this, you will separate the lot numbers using a comma. So I will type in 42, comma, 43, comma, 6, 7. Notice that I entered the numerical value and did not type out the number. If you run into any questions about a property description, please check out our talk board and FAQ page on Zooniverse, and stay tuned in this video to the end when I explain a couple of the most common variations that you will find for property descriptions. Next question asks me, what is the block number? For this step, I repeat the process of the last question, but entering the block number. Again, I am entering the numerical value rather than typing the number out. Remember, in this description, it said that these lots were contained in block 1. So we will type in 1 for block 1. The last geographic question asks, what is the addition name? Addition names typically come at the end of a legal property description, following the lot and block numbers. This property says Hank's Minnetonka Terrace. So I will type Hank's Minnetonka Terrace. Be sure to include apostrophes or punctuation contained within the proper name of the addition name, as well as any series numbers that are contained within the addition name. For example, if this was Hankey's second Minnetonka Terrace addition, we would want to make sure that we included second, otherwise we would not map it in the proper area. Once I've completed this task, I'll press next to move on. Finally, you will record the date of the covenant. Look for a date on the document, typically at the top of the first page or in the first paragraph. Some deeds actually have 2 dates, and in these instances, you should enter the earliest one. For instance, if I look at the top here, I see filed November 1st, 1926. But if I read a little bit further, I read this 8th day of October in the year of our Lord, 1923. So I'm actually going to enter October 8th, 1923 for this document because that's the earliest date that it was actually executed. And so I'm going to select from this drop-down menu, and to make this easier, I actually can type the number in and then select it once it appears. And then I'm going to select October and 1923. And then I'm done with that step. Once I've completed that question, I'm finished with that deed. And congratulations, you have finished your first transcription. When I hit done, a recap of all of the data that I entered for that deed. Then I can press next to move on to the next transcription, or I can press talk to actually flag this specific document with a question for one of us here at the Mapping Prejudice project to answer. So if I had a question or I noticed something was wrong about that recap that it shows on the previous page or the summary of my inputs, I could type here whatever that issue was and we would be able to respond to it. Remember that at any time, if you have questions, you can refer to the talk board by pressing talk in the upper nav bar. Here you will find our FAQ, which contains some of the most frequently asked questions that volunteers pose. You can also check out our general discussion board, where you can add your own discussion of a question that you have encountered, or check out questions and discussions that have been added by other users. Now, I am going to go through some of the most common questions that come up about property descriptions. One type of property description that you might encounter when you are transcribing deeds are legal descriptions that have no lot, block, or addition. For example, this deed reads the southwest quarter of the northeast quarter, and so on. For a description like this, you would type none in the lot field because there is no lot number. You would also type none for the block number and for the addition name. It should be noted that any time you see a description that references a government lot, you should also do the same thing and type none for the lot, block, and addition of that deed. Another unique type of deed are what is called master documents. These deeds reference many properties at the same time. They are similar to the example that I showed in the main part of the video, except they often have multiple lots and multiple blocks. I will show you how to enter that kind of property description. For instance, this description says lots 1 to 16 inclusive in block 1, lots 1 to 16 inclusive in blocks 2, lots 1 to 16 inclusive in block 3. It actually goes through and lists lots 1 through 16 in each block up to 10. So in the lot field, I am going to type 1-16 semicolon 1-16 semicolon 1-16 and so on until I have 1-16 separated by semicolons 10 times. The semicolon indicates to us that these lots are in different blocks. The final types of property descriptions that I will go over are partial lots and no block property descriptions. Sometimes you will come across a property description that looks like this one. It says all of lot 17 and the easterly 10 feet of lot 18 in White Oak's 4th edition. In this case, I would enter 17 in the lot field because 17 is listed as a full lot. Then I would have a comma and I would write the word partial because 18 is listed as a partial lot. This description is also unique because it's missing a block. And in cases like this, you are simply going to type none for the block number. And finally, note that this edition name contains a series number that is important to include. So for the edition name, I would type that in as normal, writing White Oak's 4th edition, exactly as it appears. And remember, you can always head to our talk board to look at questions that other people have asked and ask your own questions. Thank you so much for volunteering your time to help with Mapping Prejudice. Without our volunteers, this project would not exist. It is the work of all of us in community that allows us to confront the history of structural racism and make necessary change to our contemporary system of inequality.